Now that we have all of our channels named and colored and looking pretty, let's go ahead to the next step of actually patching all the channels in and all the outputs in. And so let's go over to the console here. Again, back to the default view, 2 ways to access the patching screen. I personally like to use the screen access buttons here by simply pressing the patching page. The other option would be going over here to the drop down and selecting the patching. All right, multiple ways to get to the same places, okay? So this is where everything's gonna get patched in and out of the console. A lot of people in the past have saying that using the patching screen is kind of difficult, it's not very intuitive, and that's surprising to me. To me, I find that this is very much like the traditional way of patching in, an analog console, cables on the back of the console and inserts and all that stuff. So to me, this was very, very easy to use. So right now, as we see, because we already configured the console, we have all of our 3 I/O boxes, and we have our 152. Okay, we don't see that because we don't have any inputs, but we would see that on the right side of the screen. Okay, there's a second tab up here, okay, which also gives us the other items that are connected. This is the 451, and then these are the AES50s. These are our 5 recording cards, which we're going to get into that more in depth later on. Okay, so let me go continue back here. As you see here, I changed the names of the I/O boxes. We have 3 151s on stage and a 152. So in a complex system where we have multiple I/O boxes, this is for ease of identification. So as you see, the first 2 I've already named, to my custom naming, but here on the third one, I'll show and demonstrate. So this is the third DL151. It's showing you the ID of that box. So it makes your life easy for patching. All right, but I personally like to name the boxes. So what we'll do is we'll go back here. I'm gonna drop the DL because we don't have enough character spaces. So I'm gonna type 151, box number 3, and we're gonna name it stage. I'm gonna hit enter. Now that name is gonna reflect on the I/O box as you see. All right, same thing with that. I'll just name that later for easy time. All right, so now DL451 number 1 at front of house, that's named, okay? So it's showing you our inputs that we have here. Below that is our 5 AES50 cards. Okay, this is what we use for recording. We're gonna get into that in a separate video on how to hook those up and what those are. Personally, I name them, because they do 24 channels each. The first card would be like 1 to 24. The second one would be 25 to 48, and so on and so forth. So, when you have these high channel counts, it's just easy to kind of remember it. Even if you're doing plugins, you can name it however you want to do it. So whatever's gonna work to make your life easier for the patching. Okay, so the left side here is basically where a signal is originating from and where you want it to go on the right side. So as you see, a lot of these tabs are the same, and some of them are a little bit different. Like for instance, the direct out, then you got direct in, you got insert sends, insert returns, and so on and so forth, okay? But before we get into this, we're just gonna show you the different options and the way you could patch. So right now we're in single mode, okay? What single mode means is this is gonna be, say, channel 1 of our 72 inputs, and we want channel 1 to show up here on channel 1 on our kick drum. Okay, and that's why we like to name the channels ahead of time, because as I hover over, you can see that it's telling me that that's kick, that's the channel, that's the kick drum. Plus also we have the color, so it's easy to move things around. So I would suggest you do that before you start the patching, or things could kind of get a little bit weird, especially if you're not going 1-to-1 on your inputs. Okay, one little awesome thing is that if you hover over here, if there's signal present, you would see that showing up like on the display. And it just kind of lets you know that there's some signal coming in, and you know that that's the right input. Okay, so with the single mode, I'll go ahead and select this and it's done, okay? With sequential mode, let's say for example, I just want to select these inputs. okay? Instead of it doing individually, this makes life easier. If you're not putting all your channels one-to-one, or if you're doing buses and effect sends and stuff, this might make your life a little bit easier. So for example, if I want channel 9 to show up on this channel here, and then I want channel 10 to show up here, it's just automatically just going in sequence of where to put them, okay? And we have an undo button up here, and I could just undo all of that, which is a nice little fail-safe if you don't want to, if you're not sure, you make a mistake. The next one is auto. This is a great feature. What this will allow me to do is it'll automatically patch things. So for example, if I want 1 to 24 to show up on inputs 1 to 24, instead of going through and clicking every single one, I take my trackball here, and I'm going to hold down the first mouse clicker, and I'm going to hover over and highlight all these channels, and I'm going to select number 1, and as I hit that, all of those easily show up. So it's very, very quick and easy for me to patch inputs. So for me, to not have to explain this, and if I was just working from scratch and I wanted all my 72 inputs, I could have 72 inputs patched in seconds. Okay, very, very simple and easy to use. And like I said, everything is going from where it's coming from to where it's going. Okay, same thing here. If I want signal to go from here, like for virtuals, like sound check, we want to use those tape returns. I can select the first 24 channels, and I'm going to now assign it to the tape returns, just like that. So now if we do virtual playback, you're going to see signal coming back in. The actual I/O box is not going to be affected. So separate inputs and outputs for that. Okay. All right. Front of house I/O tab is going to show us the surface. Remember, you're only going to see the 2 cards because of my configuration, because on the top I have outputs. So you can't patch an output to an input. All right. So it's very simple. These are the AES ports and these are the analog ports because of the way I have it on the back of the console. Okay. Buses, you're going to be in here. This is where you're going to assign your master fader, okay? So right down here, you got your left, right, and your mono bus. So if we want to take the left output and we want to come out of analog output 1, we do that. And we want to do analog output 2, just like that. And if we want to put the mono on 3, if we were using matrices, say for subs, we could have it come out here. Very, very simple and easy to do. Okay, because I might run into a situation just like you will where you have the AES card installed on the console and you want to send the signal out to the left and right on, say, AES 1 and 2. You could double patch, which is a great option, and I do that. So I go ahead and I take number 1, left output, which is coming out analog output 1. I could have it now coming out of the AES output as well. Let me go back to single mode there. And same thing with the right side. As you see, it's also assigned there, and I'm selecting it. So now those outputs are coming out. One little tip, make sure you disengage this, because if you switch over to another tab, you might start patching things in where it don't belong. If you want to deselect a patching, it's the same procedure. Just click on it, it falls away. And just like that. So the other side is still there. One thing back to the inputs, one little tip and a trick. I forgot to mention this a moment ago. What I like to do, I've done this if I have to do monitors from front of house, or if I only have, say, one microphone, to process, like particularly a kick drum. Most guys like to do an inside and an outside mic. With some of the bands that I work with, it's very common that they have, kick drums that have big logos on it, and you don't want to put like a big hole in there and stuff like that, or have like a big microphone in front of it looking all ugly. So what I like to do is I could take, the input and put it on another channel. So now I have 2 inputs, 2 copies of the same input that I can process differently. I typically like to do that with my kick drum. For the metal guys, they like a lot of snap, so I can kind of get extra, boost of the EQ that way. you know, or if I was doing monitors from front of house, what I like to do is I gate my snares and my toms kind of heavily. Sometimes the players don't like a lot of the gating and stuff. They want to hear it nice and wide open. So I could take the same microphone, send it to 2 channels, process what I need for front of house, and then have my monitor input where it's processed, you know, however I need to process it for the monitors, whether it be dynamics or EQ or anything. So great, you know, ability to be able to multi-patch and multi-assign inputs and outputs. Makes your life really, really easy, especially with the ProX here. If you're not using the full 144 channels, you know, you're definitely going to have the space to be able to do that. Okay, so back here to the buses tabs. Again, so you see here your aux sends 1 through 72. You know, you could do monitors from front of house, or you could send that to effects. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna say we want this to go to be our drum reverb. Okay, we want it's a mono send, so we'll come into both the left and right input there. All right, so that way the signal shows up on both sides of the engine, and then it'll come back in stereo. You know, so now we have our drum reverb. So we're gonna take the left side. Oops, excuse me 1 second. Let me just disconnect this guy so we don't make a mistake. See, I even have to catch myself. So let's go back to the effects. Let's take the left side. Here you have the option. Some folks like to use the aux returns. You're kind of limited to some of the processing that you could do on the aux return channels. So I personally like to bring it back on actual channels on the console. So let's say we'll put all of our effects returns on the last couple of channels. So just like this, we'll bring it back here, and now we have the reverb return for the drum reverb. Okay? Okay, now if we say we're gonna use auxes 9 through 16 to be, you know, our mixes from front of house, and be like, oh, okay, well, we need that to come out on stage. So that's gonna come out output 1, you know, mix 2 will come out here on, you know, output 2, and so on and so forth. So there's tons of different ways that you could patch things in and out of the console. This is where you're gonna be doing it. Same thing with the matrices. We went over that. The direct outs, if you guys gonna be doing the multi-track recording, this is where you're gonna be go ahead patching into the recording interfaces. So basically what we'll do is, we got channel 1 here coming out of the direct out, and we're gonna need to go to the first recording card. You know, like I said, AES 50 number 1 is gonna be our record channels from 1 to 24. So we know that this is gonna show up. So in this case, I would do sequence, I would do auto, where, let me just disconnect that guy for a second. Excuse me. And we're gonna select the first 24, and just like this, now all the direct outputs 1 to 24 are selected and going to the appropriate, oops, missed this guy over here, and they're all going to the right card. Same thing, you know, very, very quick and easy to do to set this up. Okay, next is our insert sends. Okay, so it's leaving the channel. We can have it, you know, obviously we have the inputs here. We have a little tab up here for the aux return, so we can insert physical hardware or internal effects to any of these. So let's say, because of my setup, I have the Max BCL. So that I want patched in both on, let's see, we'll do this on the AES card. So I have it on 7 and 8. So it's going out of the back of the 4051 now, and then into the inputs 1 and 2 on the BCL. Okay, so now we have to now close the return. We need to go here and select number 2, and let's go off of 7 and go into the insert return. And now that's patched. So if we go to the home screen here, there, and we select this, and I go ahead and press insert, the insert button illuminates. Okay, but for example, let's go to channel 12 here, and if we try to click the insert button, we see nothing happens. Why? Because we don't have anything patched in, so it won't go ahead and allow you to insert that. Next tab, the monitor tab. This is the default setting. You're pretty much, you could kind of leave this, but if you needed to change it, it gives you the option to do that. We have the monitor outs for the monitor A and the B, as well as the monitor center, and the LFE outs are pretty much straightforward. The external talk destination, for me, I have it patched to outputs on the stage that go to the in-ears, and I also have an additional out that can go to like a local monitor console and tie into like wedges or a comm, so this way, I could talk down multiple lines at the same time and send it wherever I need to. So that's really it on the patching for the main thing. So now we're gonna go into the CM1 card slots. The Midas NB card has slots for 2 CM1 cards. So there's a lot of different configurations. I do not have a CM card installed, so we're not going to really go through the patching process, but it is very much the same as we just covered here. All the inputs and I/O is all right there. Very easy to patch, very straightforward and to the point. Okay, so that's it as far as the patching page.